Hey guys, it's been a while. Well, a while and a half. Haven't done a review in a while. I figured I would come back on a very touchy subject, which I'm pretty sure everybody has pretty much forgotten about or just stay so quiet about because it wasn't either as bad or as great as they thought it was going to be. I'm, of course, referring to the title of the video, Ghostbusters, the 2016. I don't even want to say retooling. I just want to attempt or just some fuck. This is so difficult. All right, so Paul Feig, he's directed a lot of stuff. He's directed, I believe, The Heat and Spy, which was really good. I loved Spy. And now, if you know me personally, you know my history, that I'm not really the biggest Melissa McCarthy fan. I feel like, okay, just fall over, do the fat stuff, that's it. And it's basically just a one-trick pony, which is just stereotyping fat people. Like, oh, we're clumsy, gotta eat food, and shit like that. No, Spy was actually really fucking good. And, yeah, I mean, when this was announced that they were actually going to do another Ghostbusters film, I was worried more so than everybody else who was just like, fuck that, they shouldn't remake Ghostbusters, they're gonna shit on my childhood. And it's like, fuck you and your childhood, you had it, let somebody else have it. And I really was excited because like the cast was announced, and like Kristen Wiig, I'm a huge fan of. Kate McKinnon, who's just completely showing up everywhere, and she always gives like 110. And the only one that I was really skeptical about was Leslie Jones. And that's only because of her shtick. Like, I thought, like, just like, okay, she's gonna, like, speaking from producer mentality, like, oh, we need the ethnic in there, and we're gonna make her say, oh, hell no, and all this other stuff, which she kind of did. Well, she did in the film. But, you know, there was a part of it that, you know, they were actually using her character properly. Now, Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, they're pretty much like a combination of Ray and Spangler, and McKinnon's character Holtzman, which is just, she steals the show. Like, I'll tell you this straight up: if you're gonna see the movie, Holtzman is the most charming character out of all of them, and you know you get happy when she reacts to something, and she's a very intelligent and very almost childlike presence in the film. And yet she's so smart because she creates all the doodads and the gadgets and everything like that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But, yeah, and this is a problem with a lot of people, too, is that the first good portion of the first half and a little bit of the middle of the film, it seemed like they were starting to really come into their own once you get past the fact that their proton packs don't really catch ghosts, but shoot them or push them somewhere else. And the trap, I mean, they trapped one thing. They trapped one, I don't even want to call it a ghost. It was like a dragon or a demon of some sorts. I don't know. But yeah, that is seriously the only thing that they really catch in the film. Everything else, they're either beating up with their proton brass knuckles, or throwing proton grenades and knocking them out, or disintegrating them. And it just, they didn't catch ghosts. They busted them like they busted them up. Like, why do I just call them like ghost fighters or spirit ass kicker? I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't terrible. Okay, I will go on note saying that it was not a terrible film. It's just, it felt like they had this piece of clay. And the clay, they're molding it in, and they're taking shape in it, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe this could be fine. Maybe, this is going to be good. It'll just be different. I'm accepting it. And then all of a sudden, they just leave it. And they present it to you. Like, no conflict really within the group, other than, like, Kristen Wiig's character's a little skeptical at the beginning of getting back into the whole ghost phenomenon and everything like that. And then when they finally capture the ghosts, or they make a name for themselves, they like, that's it. Like, that's it. They treat later in the film, when like the government or the city government, is telling them, okay, well, you got to cover it up, otherwise you're going to panic everybody because the actual government is here and they're trying to clean it up. And they separate. They separate the Ghostbusters. Like 3 of them are there, and Melissa McCarthy gets possessed and everything like that. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's still, the evil is still here. And that's another thing. The villain could have been done a little better too. It was just this guy who was being pushed on and picked on, and he was really smart, and then he wanted to lead the armies of the dead to take over the world. And that's fine and dandy. But then he freezes the National Guard and these government officials in the John Travolta pose from Staying Alive and Saturday Night Fever. And then there was a dance sequence that I guess they scrapped because it was a terrible idea, but then they show it in the fucking credit sequence. And I'm like, this is not helping your case. Why is this a good idea? And that's another thing too. It's like the proton packs, they're fine for modernized and everything like that. The trap looks cool. However, they don't really use it only once. And then it just seems like they had an idea and they got scared. They got scared to write more about it. Like, oh, maybe people get too bored. Okay, we'll just scrap that. And then at the end, when there's kind of like a tender moment between Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy's character, it's like, why was that needed? They were friends. Nothing really conflicting against each other other than they've been given the brush off. And there wasn't even really conflict there. Like, I feel like I'm going off too much on a rant. Like, I really wanted it to be good. And at the end, they teased the whole thing of a sequel. I'm just going to tell you this right now. If you haven't seen it or you're not going to see it, they mentioned Zool. And already I can hear the audiences going, oh, fuck, really? Like, that's what a lot of people were worried about. Like, they're going to try to redo the first one and they're not going to be able to do it. And a lot of times it seems like they tried to weasel their shtick in a little too much. Like Melissa McCarthy just said, oh, that's going to leave a mark. And Kristen Wiig's like, oh, okay, just going to say something really under the breath. And then you got Leslie Jones, oh, hell no. And it's just, they could have done without it. This really could have shown that they can be funny without that usual bullshit. And it didn't really help that they snuck it in there. Like Kate McKinnon, she was fine. Her character called for it. Everybody else is just like, it could have been done better. It could have been handled differently. And there's another thing too, is like the ghosts, it seemed like they wanted to focus more on like the kids aspect of it, merchandising or whatnot. I kind of took it as a cue of the cartoon back in the day when the real Ghostbusters cartoon was around. They all had different ghosts every episode. But a lot of them didn't make sense. Like balloon ghosts and a Swiss Army knife. And there wasn't a Swiss Army knife ghost. It was just, I don't know. Like, I want to go back and I want to just help them retool it, you know? Like, I'm not saying I can make it better. I'm just saying that I could probably just tell them, hey man, this doesn't make sense as a consumer and I'd like to help you and stuff. Like, yeah, so Ghostbusters. I hope the kids enjoy it. And that's what it's all about. This one's about the kids. The original Ghostbusters wasn't even about kids. It was just a fucking comedy film that was so great and so profitable and marketable that we got the toys, we got the cereal, we got the cartoon out of it. But if you watch that film, there's nothing kiddie about it other than the pretty lights and the ghosts. Other than that, like, I want you inside me, are you the keymaster? And like, this man has no dick. Like, there's nothing childhood about it. Like, nothing child appropriate for that film. But still, it's fine. It's a great film. And yeah, but I mean, this one really, it's a new generation. It's a new time. But folks, please, for the love of God, show your fucking kids the original Ghostbusters. Hell, even show them Ghostbusters 2. Everybody should know about Janusz and Vigo, even though that's what everybody just quotes in that film. But it's pretty much the same film. But, I mean, yeah, wait for the dollar theater or wait to watch it on home video. And don't expect anything near what your Ghostbusters was, because we've already got it. It's gone. And Bill Murray didn't even want to be in a third one to begin with. Hell, it was hard enough to get him in the game. That's the thing. Almost everybody except the 3 ones that we actually would have loved to have seen are not in the film. There's cameos up the ass. Sigourney Weaver's, I think, was the coolest, along with Annie Potts. But, yeah, if we would have seen... I mean, well, Bill Murray's in it, too. If we would have seen... I would have been happy with Walter Peck. That's a personal preference. But if we would have got Rick Moranis as Louis Tully or Harold Ramis, God rest, I mean, I think it would have made it just a little enjoyable, but I'm glad I'm not glad Harold Ramis is gone, but I'm glad he wasn't in this. He would have probably put a little more work into it. Rick Moranis, I don't think this is worth coming out of his retirement for. But I'm really making it sound like it's a shit film, and it's really not. It's just, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, hey man, first effort, you need to fix things. However, go back in and fix it if you're going to do another one. Just a little more thought into it. Don't rush it. I know we have a deadline, but don't rush it. All right. So, what did you think of Ghostbusters? The new one. Everybody loves the old one or hates the old one. I don't care. We're talking about the new one. Leave a comment if you want something for me to review. Please put the recommendation. I totally open to it. But yeah. Until then, yeah.